Albion, a system of planets that orbit a binary star system in the galactic north. They survive just on the fringe of the Eye of Terror. Formed long ago, its two stars glisten in space like a blinding lighthouse that allow Imperial ships to navigate through the vast void of space. They release abundant amounts of plasmic energy towards the stars above. This beautiful anomaly creating a picturesque sky and changing what life is like for those calling this system home, but also an unbound quantity of power as the two stars combine, making an apoplectic fire that rages in the sky. There were once 6 planets in this system, now only 5. This I will explain later. All of the 6 planets had their own unique habitats, and they thrived in different ways. These were colonized in the order shown above, and their planets simply numbered, after which became a working society one at a time. From early pioneering world fighting back against unyielding woodlands, the first colonies grew on Albion 1, all the while being protected by its knightly warriors and becoming a bustling civilization for the rest of the Imperium to envy. The system grew swiftly as an economic marvel of the expanding Imperial Empire, into an arsenal producing unfathomable quantities of weaponry that would fuel the conquest of further systems, but also using its almost bottomless supply of energy to make powerful relic weapons, which the most skilled armourers created with their knowledge of how to harness this unique solar pulse energy. These would be placed aboard ships and traded amongst the largest ports the Imperium has ever seen in all its millennia. Of course, this jewel would need to be protected, and it was his first legion, the Dark Angels, that the Emperor chose to guide the planetary defense force, who, to the last man, would defend their planet with each drop of blood and each round of a lasgun. But it was the Knights who were the protectors all along. They had been there from the start and warded off the greatest of foes forever and always. Loyalty above one's self. Obviously, with its lighthouse-like stars echoing out across the blackness of space, it remained closely attached to Terra and Mars, and soon the Emperor saw it fit to ensure that it could remain under his control. And his Knights of Caliban naturally took their places in this feudalistic society, taking over the hierarchy and guiding their people on to greatness. All in the name of the great god Emperor. Though with the forges glistening in their prosperity, this brought with it an evil, a power that drove people mad. Like most Imperial planets, a contingent of Adeptus Mechanicus joined to guide in the ways of the machine. They were once mighty warriors fighting alongside their allies and using their wisdom to guide them in the forges, but soon they marched under their own banner, with power corrupting their souls, forcing them to chase what they could not control. What once was a mechanical beauty fighting alongside the Imperium in the name of the Mechanicus became warped and twisted and fought a brutal guerrilla war. Forge by forge had to be cleared out, and this filth destroyed in its entirety. This left scars across the entirety of the system. Those few Admech warriors that remain look on with an air of distrust, and constantly watched over by the inquisitorial forces. There is no such thing as true reprieve in the 40k universe, and as brother began to fight brother in the ultimate betrayal of the Horus heresy, nowhere would be saved from the reaches of chaos. The Warmaster Horus would wreak havoc across all systems, Albion included, and all across the Emperor's First Legion. A great divide split down the middle, brother fighting brother, viciously, without remorse. I have much pity for those millions of citizens who return to their work in the forge and in the shipyards, caught in the crossfire of bolter, plasma, and hellfire which would rain down all around them. Individual acts of heroicism, both from the Marines and from the citizenry, who would fight the traitor and turn the tide of this brutal war, until eventually the bolters fell silent and the battle was won. No one could forget what happened this day, and each and every individual warrior, from those piloting the great knight suits, the Marines, even to the most humble guardsmen, had proven their loyalty to the Emperor. Its thriving economy and access to resources, of course, led to a stockpile of powerful relics and weapons to be accrued, those which only the finest artificers could create. These weapons harnessing and channeling the great plasmic energies collected from the stars above, from the most lethal ranged weapons and the sharpest of powerful blades, but also great devices which could enhance the psyche of any librarian. And after learning the brutal lessons from those previous wars, the planetary governors collectively decided that they would need to create a great vault system buried deep in the bedrock of each of their worlds. And behind thick ceramite doors, that, coveted by other beings, was locked away and closely guarded by the mightiest warriors of Albion. Already each planet, itself an impenetrable bastion, became yet more an impenetrable fortress that nothing could break through. These bastions turning even the mightiest planning of the Imperial fists to green envy at the many lines of defences protecting the most precious artefacts of Albion. However, these vaults would soon see a new purpose, requisitioned by those interrogator chaplains of the Dark Angels, seeking to use their impenetrable walls to lock away their secrets and the fallen brothers captured by the Raven and the Deathwing. These vaults would become known as the extraction chambers, as the chaplains sought to extract the truth from their fallen brothers, though you and I would know them as a different name: torture chambers. It has been said that for those working and living above these chambers, that a sense of dread would eke through the ground, and sometimes they would hear horrible screams. And 3, 2, 1. And the last great event in Albion's history, simply known only by the name, the Shattering. During the crusades of the warmonger Abaddon, who, looking to finally break the Cadian defence line, sought to wreak havoc on any system supporting those Cadian defenders. And Albion was a system who devoted great effort to supply Cadia, often disadvantaging itself and knowing the value of its brother system. And so, when it fell into the Warmaster's sights, the people of Albion knew that once again that they would be thrust onto the front line of the Imperial's defence. But oddly, Abaddon did not send his biggest warships. No, instead, he sent something else. Brutus Vangor was once one of the mightiest warriors of the Praetors of Albion, a great psyker and chief librarian. He, however, fell to the persuading word of chaos and turned on his brothers, and joined the ranks of the fallen. Under the watchful eyes of the Masters of Sanctity, Brutus was subjected to the highest levels of extraction. An energy radiated from the ground below, and a psychic scream was sent across the universe. And falling on the War Master's ears, he ensured that there was a reply. A sense of dread and an energy signal emanated from the Eye of Terror in the direction of Albion. The War Master himself whispered deep into the soul of Brutus, and an evil deal was struck. And it was only a matter of time. Albion had a destiny with a cataclysm. Confused reports of fallen brothers returning to Albion filled the voxnets with screams for support and assistance, as once more the system would be set ablaze as a conquest of evil swept over the planets. These agents of chaos broke their way into the vaults and freed their twisted brothers to go on and unleash evil on the population, and twisted scenes of massacres could be seen in the streets of Albion 4. The chaos and carnage above, along with the pact made with the dark gods that Brutus had sworn, saw him well on his ascent to demonhood. Blood for the blood god. Those first veteran brothers that discovered Brutus stood no chance and were swiftly murdered as they stood. All they could do was slow him and contain him in the vaults, all the while growing stronger and stronger with each drop of blood spilled. The Praetor's mightiest warrior, their chapter master, Wyndham Oakbridge, to turn the tide of this unforeseen battle. He fought bravely, putting down the heretic until he found Brutus himself. And an almighty clash of legendary proportions took place miles below the surface. Though using his martial prowess, Wyndham knew he could not contain Brutus forever, and decided to make the ultimate sacrifice. As chapter master, he knew all the powers of the relics that were hidden below, and he activated one of the mightiest ones, the planet splitter, Mjolnir. Like the mythical hammer, it split the planet in two. A chain reaction would ensue, relic upon relic going up in flames, incinerating the planet from within. Almost no living matter would survive what happened that day. And there was an evil foreshadowing of what would happen to its brother system, Cadia. Brutus's final malicious act was to use his entire mental being to transmit what secrets lay in the vaults below Albion, knowing the eyes that it would draw, and the potential for yet more blood to be shed. Albion today does its best to return itself to its once former glory, its population and defenders still dedicated but working under constant threats of obliteration and conquer from armadas of all manner of forces. Its biggest threats, the unending wave of orc wars, constant streams of chaos infiltrations, and an unknown enemy that's buried deep within the planet's core, disturbed by the vaults buried below. If you like what you heard, like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye for now.